All in Sports Network. We love sports.
Okay, happy Friday, everybody. I've had some real issues this morning getting this thing going because my Wi-Fi is not working. So hopefully this is all right for you guys. We got a fun episode coming along this afternoon. Now we've got all right. So yesterday I filmed 30 minutes of a Louisiana preview. And I got done, I posted it, and I listened back to it, and I couldn't hear anything, but I was thinking, this is probably just something wrong with my phone. And then I got a text from my friend Lucian, and he said, I can't hear anything you're saying on your live stream. So I deleted it and decided I'd do it today. Also today at 12:30, maybe a little bit after, I have my friend, former roommate at Mizzou, Mizzou alumni, James Baxley Cross, joining me to talk about Missouri's 2 5-star recruits in basketball. So we're getting some football and some basketball in today. Man, I hope this sound is working. I hope the live's working. I'm just terrible at all this stuff. So I'm just he was there even for longer than people thought, I think. And then he finally went to Florida, and he left Michael DeZormo, the offensive coordinator, his offensive coordinator. He left him in charge of the team. Billy Napier kind of sort of ransacked the cupboard and took a lot of Louisiana staff and players with him. So under DeZormo, it's been a bit of a rebuild. And now it's sort of shaping up and it's working out. They won 10 games last year. They're returning 9 starters off that team. The first 2 years under DeZormo, they won 6 games. They've made a bowl every year under him, lost all 3 of them. This guy's kind of a Louisiana Ragin' Cajun lifer. He played quarterback there. I think he's in the top 10 of all-time passing yards, passing touchdowns, and rushing yards. So this guy is a Ragin' Cajun all the way. I think, looking at this team, it's an interesting spot because you're in between a big game against Kansas and a big game against South Carolina. So this is one of those games that could be considered a bit of a trap game, just because of the fact that this Louisiana program is good. They've played Power 5 programs before on the road and won. Like I remember in 2020. This year they went out before the season. They went out and got Walker Howard to play quarterback, and he was a 5-star recruit out of high school, committed to LSU, didn't play, transferred to Ole Miss, didn't play, transferred again, this time back home to Louisiana. People were really excited about him. In his first game, Louisiana played Rice. He really didn't throw the ball that well. He was 10 for 22 with 88 yards and an interception, but he ran well, and that's part of his game that makes him difficult to defend, at least in high school last time we kind of got to see him play. But he ran for 47 yards and a touchdown on 9 carries. And towards the end of the game, as Louisiana was trying to mount a comeback, he was looking better as the game went on before he got hurt. And it turns out the injury late in I think it was early in the fourth quarter, his injury turned out to be pretty serious. I believe it's some sort of oblique injury. Definitely not playing against Mizzou. There's a chance he's out for the year. Unfortunate for them because this is a a blue chip high school recruit that had a chance to be a big part of this offense. And now they have a guy named Daniel Beal, who's a redshirt freshman, played a little bit last year, got in at the end of the Rice game. By the way, Louisiana lost to Rice 14-12 in week 1. Daniel Beal got in a little bit. He went 0 for 6 for 0 yards, obviously. Did not look good there. And he started against McNeese last week and looked a lot better. I mean, not a lot better, but he looked more comfortable. He was 14-22, threw for 86 yards and a touchdown, ran for 18 yards. So one area where Missouri is definitely going to have the advantage is, this defensive line, if they can bother Daniel Beal, a guy who has not played in an environment like Furrow Field ever, and it's his first start this year. I'm not sure if he started a game. Make him uncomfortable, you're probably in good shape. The part of this offense, though, this Raging Cajun offense that's tough is their running backs. They have 2 running backs, and in Drinkwitz's weekly press conference, he said these 2 guys are the scariest part of the offense. They have Bill Davis and Zylan Perry, 2 running backs who both ran the ball really well against McNeese State. Bill Davis rushed 19 times for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Zylan Perry ran for 14 times for 94 yards. These 2 guys are kind of big, stocky backs. They're kind of like bowling balls. They're tough to bring down. When you have 2 of them, it's, you can switch them off and have fresh legs a lot of the time. So I think, like, you look at what their production, how productive they've been this season. Louisiana's offense has the 24th highest graded rushing offense, according to Pro Football Focus. I mean, they run the ball well. They ran against McNeese State. The team ran for 315 yards, which is pretty incredible. So this is when I look at, 1, you're going to want to pressure the quarterback, but 2, you have to stop this run. And this is what Missouri did really well against Kansas, only allowed 25 rushing yards against a Kansas team that has a lot of guys who are able to run. So the defensive tackles, I'm looking at like Chris McClellan, Marquise Gracial, Sterling Webb. I'm looking at these guys to just be cogs in the middle of the defense and make this hard for guys like Bill Davis and Zylan Perry. That is the key for me. Drinkwitz addressed this. You have to stop the run. And if you can stop this run and force Daniel Beal to have to make some plays with his arm, I think you feel pretty good about your chances against this Louisiana team. On the defensive side of the ball, this is a good defense. I think this unit was the one that Louisiana people were excited about the most. They returned some big-time players. They're 29th in total defense, allowing 244.5 yards per game through 2 games. And obviously, Rice and McNeese are not world beaters by any means, but this defense does have at least the ability to make an offense work. They are 63rd in run defense. So that's 100. They're allowing 126.5 yards per game. They're 14th in passing yards allowed with 118 per game. So there is definitely areas, particularly running the ball, that Missouri can attack. And that's what I'm looking for here, because we saw Missouri's rushing attack dominate Kansas. You've got a guy in Ahmad Hardy who has played against this Louisiana team before. He played against them last year. The same defensive coordinator, the same scheme. He'll have a better offensive line. last year against Louisiana, Ahmad Hardy with UL Monroe ran 28 times for 172 yards and a touchdown. So he averaged 6.1 yards per rush. Louisiana beat UL Monroe, but Hardy did just about everything he could. And now you've got a better offensive line in front of him, a better passing attack, takes the pressure off of him. And then you got Jamal Roberts, who was excellent last week. I'm curious to see what kind of role he's going to have, if this is going to be kind of I imagine right now it's going to be probably something like 65-35, 60-40 split in favor of Hardy. But Roberts is going to get touches too. And yeah, I mean, if Missouri can, like I said, the trenches is where the biggest advantage is going to be, especially physically. Missouri's offensive line has to just dominate this game. And if they do that, Hardy's going to have a really easy time, it seems like, Hardy and Roberts. And then, if you can run the ball, then you can open it up passing and throw the ball around a little bit. And I don't think this is going to be one of those games where you're going to need Bo Pribula to win it for you. I think this is a game where he can kind of, pick his spots, make throws when he needs to. But if this run game is going, I think that is how Missouri is going to attack this team, and then, maybe utilize play action like they did multiple times against Kansas to open it up downfield. And I think like this is I can't remember what Missouri's favored. I think it's like, I don't know, 37 points or something, 27 points maybe. But yeah, 27.5 points is the spread here. So this is a game Missouri absolutely should win, and you should do it, fairly comfortably, which will allow us to see, the young guys at receivers, some of those young linebackers again. Like, I think that's another thing before SEC starts. Test your depth a little bit here against Louisiana. If you can jump out to a lead, let's see some guys before South Carolina comes to town next week. Let's see how deep this team is. One other note I found as I was researching this game is that Missouri has never played Louisiana before in the history of their programs, but there are some connections here between the two teams. And I mentioned one of them. Ahmad Hardy ran for 172 yards on this defense last year. And it's the same defensive coordinator. It should be the same sort of scheme. So, yeah, I think there's film there. I think Hardy has an advantage knowing kind of what he's going to see, and I think that's good. Jim Salgado is the Louisiana defensive coordinator. He was there last year, so there's some continuity there that I think Hardy will recognize, and this run game should take advantage of. And then the other one is Drinkwitz coached against this team in 2019 with Appalachian State. His one season as head coach at App State. They played against Louisiana and they beat him 45-38. And in his press conference, he talked about that game and how, since that 2019 season, a lot of the stuff that Louisiana does is the exact same, because Michael DeZormo, the now head coach, was offensive coordinator then. So you're getting a lot of the same schemes, personnel. Drinkwitz talked about how they'll continue they ran a lot of outside zone then. They'll keep doing that outside zone running. They do multiple personnel. They utilize their tight ends in a big way, which is something that Kansas took advantage of last week with their, whatever seventh-year senior, that tight end Hanukkah had a big game against Missouri. So this is another test. See if they can fix that up. They also run a lot of play action. They run kind of on defense. They still kind of run a 4-3, I think is what he was talking about. And based on what I've seen, that's sort of what I recognize the defense as. So, excuse me. There's familiarity. That's another big deal. Even though these two teams have never played each other, there is some recognition, at least on both sides. I saw my friend, the friend of the show, Quentin Corpule, tweeted out a kind of he called it a Louisiana offense appetizer, and I'm going to steal some of that. Also what they do, and it's tough because we really haven't seen either one of their quarterbacks, either one of the two that have played this year. Neither of them have been great, but they've combined for only 3 pass attempts of 10 to 20 plus yards over the middle of the field. So a lot of what they're doing on offense is going towards the sideline, which is going to test the cornerback room, which I think is another good thing, because that's a unit that I think so far I feel a little bit better about them than last year, but it's probably the position group defensively that I feel the least confident in. So another opportunity to get comfortable before a very, very big matchup against South Carolina next week will be a big deal. Another thing that Drinkwitz talked about is how this offense and their 2 running backs, they use those 2 guys to go on these long, sustained drives, keeping the ball out of the opposing offense's hands, which is something else that Kansas really did well, especially in the fourth quarter when they went on that 92-yard drive to take the lead. Drinkwitz talked about how this is a perfect test to see if they can improve in that regard, get off the field, get the ball back to the offense. So that's something to look for as well. Can this Missouri offense win on first down? Can this Missouri defense win on first down and force Beal to throw and get off the field quickly? All right, so it's 12:30. I got a couple more things. I'll bring James on in a second. But some keys to the game that I have here that I want to talk about real fast. I think Missouri has to get off to a fast start. You don't want to mess around with this team. Like I said, this program has experience going into Power 4, Power 5 stadiums and winning. You can't mess around here, even though you're a big favorite. And Missouri got off to a initial fast start against Kansas before, really playing an awful rest of the first quarter. They went up 6-0, and then the quarter ended and they were down 21-6. So overall, not a good start. Got into a hole that they were kind of digging out of the rest of the game. You have to get off to a fast start here. And, if you can do that, if you can get Louisiana in a hole, I think that's where Daniel Beal has to start throwing. And I think that's what you want if you're Missouri's defense. Stop the run. Again, this goes hand in hand with making Daniel Beal beat you. You want to stop the run. This Bill Davis and Zylan Perry, 2 very good running backs. How can you limit them? The defensive tackles, I think, were really good against Kansas. Can they continue that? And once you do stop the run, if you can, when Daniel Beal has to throw, another key, I think, is just making him uncomfortable. I think this game for the defense is going to be how uncomfortable can you make this quarterback who really doesn't have that much experience in big games. I want to see the edge rushers win their battles one-on-one. I don't think there's going to be Missouri, I'm sure, will blitz a little bit. They blitzed a good amount against Kansas. I'm hoping, though, that you can win with just 4 rushers. You can win your matchups and get the quarterback, at least hurry him and pressure him, make him uncomfortable. I think one other thing I want to see, like I already kind of mentioned, is the secondary. I just want to see him lock it down. I think that'll make it, it'll be good for them to have a big game before they have to play against a quarterback like Lenora Sellers. I just want to see them defend well. They did a good job in the man coverage last week. In zone coverage, they struggled a lot, particularly in that fourth quarter on that long drive. Kansas got whatever they wanted. So just settling in, being more effective and more consistent, especially from the cornerbacks, is one other thing I want to see. But we'll see. I'm excited for this game. It's interesting because it's a relatively easy game between 2 games that mean a lot to Missouri. Like I said, you have the Kansas game before this. Right after it, you have SEC play opening up against South Carolina. So, it's a nice game to be able to kind of get your footing back again after a very emotional win last week, but also at the same time, it's a perfect opportunity to let your guard down and and come out here and look really flat and flirt with losing a game you should not lose. So that fast start's going to be important. I want to see Missouri take it as seriously as they can and get out here with a win, get on to the South Carolina game undefeated. And, we'll see if they can do it. Like I said, though, the game is at noon tomorrow. It was originally scheduled for 3. They moved it up in the day to avoid some of the heat that's expected in Columbia. So it's a 12 o'clock kickoff on ESPN Plus. You can watch it there. All right, enough football. I'm going to bring in James now. We're going to talk basketball. James, like I said, he was my roommate for 4 years at Missouri, and he was a sports journalism major, and he's kind of a basketball guy. And I talked a little bit on Monday when Tony Bryant committed. I talked about just the news that he committed, but I didn't get into what kind of player he is, what makes him a 5-star guy. So I wanted to bring James on to tell me. James, how are you this morning? Thank you.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Oh man, I'm really good. You were in the waiting room, so you saw me struggling with this damn internet.
Oh yeah, you were doing what you could. You're doing what you could.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like an old man.
All right. No, me too.
But hopefully it worked. Hopefully people are maybe at least one person's watching. But
hopefully.
All right. Missouri currently has 2 5-stars in this 2026 basketball class. The most recent, we'll start with the most recent one because it's on the top of people's minds. It came less than 48 hours actually, after a very big win over Kansas. So it was one of the most exciting 48-hour stretches I imagine in Missouri fandom history. I mean, you beat Kansas, you get a 5-star recruit in basketball. Tell us a little bit about Tony Bryant. What's his deal? What is Missouri getting in this guy?
Yeah, no, definitely a really exciting long weekend for Tiger fans. I mean, the Kansas win, like you said, super emotional, super fun. Mm-hmm. But Tony Bryant, 5-star, he was a late riser through the rankings. Right now, 247 has him ranked number 23rd in the country. ESPN has him a little higher at 14. But he's a rangy, lengthy forward. He's going to take care of a lot of dirty work, or at least I project him to. He's listed around 6'9". He could be closer to 6'10", just watching some of his film. But yeah, really long arms, athletic, loves to run out in transition, good rebounder. For Treyman Elite on the Puma Pro 16 circuit this past summer, he averaged 13.5 points, about 6 boards and 2 assists, 48% from the field, 31% from 3, 74% from the line. So the three-pointer, I don't think that's going to be something that's coming super naturally to him. Mm-hmm. But 74% from the free throw line does give some good signs. It's not like he is a slouch from there. But I think he'll be really good for running in transition, finishing lobs. I almost see him kind of like an Aiden Shaw plus okay. For Missouri fans, the way that he can impact the game with his athleticism. I mean, he really is a special athlete. If you do decide to watch any film or highlights, a lot of it is him showcasing said athleticism. But like I said, not super confident in the jump shooting so far, but he got some face-up action and was fairly successful in the face-up. More of a pick and roll guy, but he did occasionally pick and pop, and he does have a pretty solid jumper. Maybe a little slow on the release, but good one motion, things that you like to see if you're a player development coach, that is. So we'll see how the jump shooting really comes along. I think the senior year of high school will be big for him, especially as a late riser. But I think he'll be a great complement to this team, especially the way that Gates has been running the Missouri teams these past couple of years, really putting an emphasis on transition offense. I think that's somewhere where Tony Bryant can really thrive, especially when you put him next to a guy like Jason Crow, who we'll get into more later, I'm sure. Yeah. But, Crow's a guy who can find the open man, and he draws so much attention defensively that it'll give guys like Tony Bryant big opportunity to be a big part of this offense.
Mhm. It's hard to know, obviously, and like you said, the senior year will be important. But is this a guy you can see profiling at least as a one and done character, or will he? Do you think he'll benefit more from staying a year or two? And I know it's hard to tell now, but do you have any idea if this is a one and done type of player, type of talent?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like you said, it can be hard to know now. Things can change so fast. At the moment, I wouldn't project him as a one and done.
Okay.
I think he does have some cleaning up to do as a prospect, maybe with a ball handling, self creation. He is
Mhm.
pretty raw right now. A
Yeah.
lot of potential, ton of upside. Um, I was listening to the SI pod with Killian Wright
Yeah.
the other day about his commitment, and that's kind of one of the things he mentioned was he might have more potential, raw potential than Jason Crow even,
Hmm.
um, but I think he has some stuff to work on, and I think there's certainly a chance that he's a one and done, maybe in like a Jaden McDaniels mode.
Okay.
Uh, I wouldn't expect him to be that kind of perimeter defender, but I do think he's a bit more of an athlete than Jaden McDaniels was coming out of school. Um, but I expect him to be around for 2 or 3 years before going pro. But anything could happen.
Yeah. I'm curious also, like a lot of what when Dennis Gates was at Florida State, he and Leonard Hamilton kind of had a archetype of player that they consistently put in the NBA and recruited, like Jonathan Isaac, just like long, lanky, um, fours, threes, and
Mhm.
fours. Scotty Barnes, Patrick Williams, like I said, Jonathan Isaac. Is this kind of in that same style of player? Just physically, the way he looks, his measurables remind me at least of these guys. But do you think this is Dennis Gates' kind of ideal prospect in that mold that he kind of paved a way for himself coaching wise at Florida State?
Yeah, I kind of think so. I wasn't really considering the John Isaac comparison, but I think Jonathan Isaac is a good comparison. Um, I mean, he has the length, and he does fit into that mold that Gates recruited so well for so long. Um, Him and that Florida State staff, and those were some successful Florida State teams. They've been recruiting well too. The only other uh, recruiting class that's ranked above Missouri's at the moment. I think they have a handful of 4 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I do actually think he fits into that mold, and I think that that's an underrated aspect of the signing is that Dennis has worked with guys like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's also from, it's so interesting now how Gates is kind of recruiting on a high level nationally because he's a
Mhm.
Florida kid. Jason Crow Jr. is a California guy.
Yep.
I imagine Gates still has plenty of ties in Florida, but
Oh,
just the national scale of how he's recruiting, I think has been really cool to watch.
yeah, I completely agree, and I think part of that is the NIL era.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot easier to go after some of these prospects. But yeah, I mean that's a big thing for the Missouri program going forward. I mean, I know people have moved away from recruiting out of high school so much. A lot of focus is in the transfer portal, especially for some top schools. Um, but I think this is a great sign, and I think putting these kids on the right path and trying to professionally develop them, I think will be a big thing for the future of Missouri recruiting. I look at Kentucky as an example of a school that consistently sends guards to the NBA. A lot of them one and done,
Hmm.
and I mean, you think about how many commits they would get under Calipari. Um, I just think if Gates and the staff can develop a guy like Crow or Tony Bryant to get to the NBA, I expect Crow to be more of a one and done type prospect.
Hmm.
But I think recruits will really appreciate that professional development because I mean, the end goal for a lot of these guys is to play in the best league in the world. So great sign, picking up some top recruits. Now we just got to do something with them.
Exactly. Yeah. My next question was kind of about the on-court product, what we've seen from Dennis Gates. And you and I both traveled to Wichita, Kansas in March to watch Missouri and Drake, and it was extremely disappointing. I think a lot of fans left Kansas, that state, just really discouraged and upset with the way that not just losing, but the way it looked was really, really rough. And I think, obviously fans aren't going to give up on basketball ever, but there was a sense, I think you could feel it throughout the fan base of just like total frustration and feeling totally let down. How big is it now that he's gone out and pulled not one, but 2 5-stars, which hasn't been done at Missouri since 2017 with the Porter brothers? But how big is it that he's, coming off of such a disappointing end to a fun season? How disappointing is it? How big is it now that he's gone and got these 2 huge recruits? How much does that, obviously it's going to bring back a lot of the disappointed Missouri fans, but how important is recruiting just in terms of the way your fan base acts and feels, do you think?
Yeah, it definitely was a disappointing loss in Wichita against Drake. And, I do think that frustrated a lot of fans. The people around me who were there seemed pretty frustrated. But I think the 5-stars are definitely help luring people back in. I think some people too were a little disappointed with the transfer portal. Not a ton went there. Sebastian Mack is a good pickup, and I believe in Sean Phillips as a center coming from Arizona State. I think he can be a good player. But I think, it really helped people come back in after so-so transfer portal, a tough end to the year. But the expectations do rise with these kind of prospects. And look, great prospects that play for bad teams. We just saw Rutgers. They had 2 top 5 draft picks, and they were awful, frankly. So it doesn't automatically mean that you're going to be a great team. But based on what Gates has already done, I think the expectation is going to be for a bit more of a run, maybe to the Sweet 16. I think Missouri fans really want to win more than one game in the tournament. And this is a team that could possibly do it if Tony Bryant and Jason Crow are as advertised 2 years from now. This year in between is kind of weird now. Everyone's looking forward and have kind of forgotten about what we got right now. But, 2 years from now, I think that'll be a big year of expectations for Gates. And I think people are going to try and hold him more accountable. He's done a great job recruiting. Some people have had issues with in-game adjustments and whatnot. But I think that'll be a real prove-it year. I think he's done a great job so far. But, there comes a point, especially in the SEC, where you start to demand a certain level of success.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, it feels a little bit Drinkwitz-y, how the first couple of years of Drinkwitz, it was a lot of really nice recruiting. He's getting the fan base excited after a tough stretch. For Drinkwitz, it was Barry Odom before him. With Gates, it was Quanzo Martin, who our freshman year, we had to watch Quanzo ball, and it was among my least favorite experiences in my life.
Not great.
I think our first game ever as Missouri students that we went to was University of Missouri, Kansas City, and Missouri lost by a significant margin in the Quanzo era. It feels like Drinkwitz a little bit where you recruit really well, people are really excited. You pull off a couple big wins, and then Drinkwitz finally broke through. With a 11-win season, actually winning a Cotton Bowl. Now you're kind of waiting on Gates to have a breakthrough, make a run. And I do want to ask you a little bit about the current team and a little bit just how you feel about the guys coming back and the additions. But first, I want to talk about the other 5-star who 247 Sports has as the number 3 player in the country. He's from Inglewood, California. He committed back in July. Jason Crow Jr., the second highest ranked recruit in Missouri history. Tell us about this guy and what kind of player is he?
Yeah, Crow's awesome. He's super exciting. He scores in droves. a really wonderful self-creator, takes and makes really tough shots, which is something that, a tough shot maker is something that Mizzou would have liked against Drake.
Yeah.
But, he's someone who can take pretty much any shot, and you're not going to be too mad at it. Young prospect, birthday July 18th. So he's not turning 18 until after his senior year. He'll have graduated high school already. Fun tidbit I found about him, had no idea. Nephew of Paul Pierce.
No way.
Yeah, also played at Inglewood High School.
Okay.
But yeah, that's his nephew. He played AAU ball briefly for the Why Not AAU team. That's Russell Westbrook's. And apparently they have some form of contact. They talk every so often, which is, it's always cool to see those kind of parallels, especially with such great players. But yeah, Crow, he's really, really quite the player. He led EYBL in scoring this last session. They had his stats at 26.5 points, 3 assists, and 2.5 rebounds. He led EYBL with the number 1 ranked player in the country as his teammate, Tyron Stokes.
Wow.
So, to be a primary shot taker on the team with literally the best guy in the country per pretty much every outlet for 2026. It says something about him, and he's been doing it for a long time. I found a cool article from Zag's blog, which is not about Gonzaga. It's a guy named Adam Zagoria. So,
I've been confused by that before. Yeah.
So, but as a freshman, he won the CIF California, state title, and he averaged 36.4 points, 4.8 assists, 3.4 steals, and 2.6 rebounds as a freshman. Now, I'll put a small asterisk there. He was coached by his dad, and apparently they only played about 6 guys deep, and everyone except one was a freshman. So not fighting for a lot of opportunities, I imagine. But he's been incredible. He's up to over 3,000 career points going into his senior year, which is pretty incredible. A lot of high school players will celebrate hitting the 1,000-point mark in their junior or senior year, and he did that, I believe, as a freshman.
Gosh.
So yeah,
that's nuts.
He puts the ball in the basket. He loves. He has NBA range. If you go watch some of his highlights, he's shooting from 5-6 feet behind the arc. Loves step backs. Loves a hop step. If you watch a lot of his paint touches, really creative finisher. He's really good at finishing with both hands. You see him going baseline a lot, going up and under, and finishing with the right really well, which is something that you always want to see from lefties. And anyone, you want to see the ability to finish with both hands, especially such a high recruit. But even though he's a super scorer by all means, he does have the ability definitely to read the defense. He attracts a lot of attention, and he's smart enough to make the play, find the open guy. I wouldn't call him like a supernatural playmaker, but he will make the right play, and I'm pretty confident in that. And I expect him to be one and done. And I think that would be best for, honestly, this Missouri program to show that we can make a guy a pro.
Yeah. All right. So you do think he's a one and done. I hate to put you on the spot, but is there a player that he reminds you of when you watch him play? Is there any guy that kind of his play style reminds you of him?
Ooh, that's a fun one. It's kind of tough. At this level, he's a really slithery finisher. It's a great question, actually.
I hate to put you on the spot.
Maybe I don't want to say Rockets Harden. I think he's a more creative finisher around the basket, even though Harden was great there. But I think the left hand shooting, the step back, the ability to score at such a high rate. Off the top of my head, I'll say Harden, but
all right,
I don't think that's perfect. I don't think it's a perfect comparison.
It's a pop quiz. You did well.
Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, I guess one more I have before we get into this year's team. How do how do you think Jason Crow and Tony Bryant fit together? How do they, what parts of each other's games will they feed off of in 2026 when we finally get to see them on the court together?
Yeah, I think this is one of the most fun parts about it. I think that they're going to complement each other really, really well. I mean, the way that Tony Bryant runs in transition, I mean, he's making it easy on his guards. I think they're going to run a lot of pick and roll, some two-man game.
Mhm.
Right now Tony Bryant projects as probably the starting four. I think most people are going to pencil in Jason Crow as a starter, especially with the expectation that Anthony Robinson might try and enter the NBA draft after this year.
Mhm.
That remains to be seen, but yeah, I think that they're going to have a really good game. I think they're going to play off of each other really well. I mean, putting an athlete like that next to a creator like Crow, even though he does so much to get himself open, like I said, he can make the right play. And I think also on that, there's a kid, Aiden Chronister, who Missouri is currently recruiting.
Yeah.
He's scheduled to visit Mizzou on, I think, next week.
I think that sounds right. Yeah, I was reading about him this morning.
So should be visiting next week. Right now, he just completed a visit at Wake Forest yesterday. Scheduled visits for St. Louis, Arkansas State, and Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
4-star, number 71 by 247. Projects as kind of a standstill shooter at the college level, but at 6'8", great positional size.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get a little extra excited, he's been good at the high school level, finishing through contact and doing a little bit more self-creation. I wouldn't expect that much should he come to a team with Jason Crow. I think he would probably do a lot of running off screens and whatnot. But I mean, that's a guy who can really help space the floor, especially if Tony Bryant, the concerns with that 3-point shot pan out to be true. I think a guy like Aiden Chronister could be big. So, you don't know. He's from the Fayetteville area. He's playing in Fayetteville. He has a Razorbacks offer. But Mizzou was the first Power 4 school to offer him back in July of 23. They were only beat out by Troy and High Point University. So first big school to really get on him. And, hopefully he appreciates that loyalty. That's something Tony Bryant said in his commitment, that Missouri was one of the first teams to look at him, and he appreciated that. And that's part of why he stayed on board.
Yeah. And if you get a guy like Chronister, I mean, it's fun to look at these class rankings, but getting a guy like Chronister probably puts Missouri at the best class in the country. So that's something to keep an eye on. That would be pretty exciting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's
I've got some questions, 1 or 2 questions before I let you go about this year's team. Because like you said, there's a lot of excitement about 2026 because you've got these 2 guys coming in. But this year's team, a team that's returning some key players from a team that didn't make the tournament. Obviously, was very disappointing in the tournament. But you've got guys like Anthony Robinson coming back, Mark Mitchell coming back. Like, you've got some experience there. And then you have Aaron Rowe, a guy you watched in high school in Columbia. And so what are your expectations from this team? What are your expectations for the team overall? And then also guys like Anar Boateng, who really didn't have much of a role last year, but was a recruit that people were really excited about. What are you expecting from this year's team and some of the guys, some of the pieces on it?
Yeah. Well, expectations on this team, I'm not super sure, frankly, with how they'll perform. I do believe in Mark Mitchell and Anthony Robinson to continue being big pieces of this team. But the SEC it's so good, so it can really be volatile. I have a hard time sitting here and telling you that they're going to win a certain amount of games or they're for sure going to make the tournament. But I think they definitely have a chance. They have a lot of talent. Anthony Robinson, some people think he could be a NBA after after this year, as I mentioned earlier, some of his defense and shot making ability has impressed some scouts. So depending on the year he has, this might be his last in a Missouri uniform, and which would be good if we can send him to the next level. Aaron Rose, a guy who I think is cool. I think he might be a little bit more developmental. I don't know if I see him getting a ton of run. Obviously, he was a higher recruit, younger. He was started as a 5-star, and I think he became maybe a little mid 4-star by the time he graduated. So I don't expect him to play a ton. I think Boateng will get more minutes. I think he was kind of the developmental guy last year. But I believe in this roster. Jacob Cruz, even
oh Lord,
one of the most hilarious basketball players I've ever watched. But I think he'll have a big year. I imagine he probably starts on this team with Mark Mitchell, Anthony Robinson. I would probably put in Trent Pierce and Sean Phillips as my starting 3 and 5 respectively. I guess there are some questions to be had with Phillips. I mean, he's not Sean Phillips, the transfer from Arizona State, hasn't taken a 3 in his college career. And, if that's not your game, I have no problem with you not taking 3s. But, next to a guy like Mark Mitchell, maybe you want more floor spacing, which kind of brings me to Trent Burns, who came in. Is a 7'5", block shots and shoot 3s. Weirdly enough, he did a lot of that in Houston, where he went to high school. So that's kind of how he projects offensively as a floor spacer, which I think is big. Obviously, there was some news that I should mention regarding Trent Burns. He had a stress reaction in his right foot, which is the same foot that had him sidelined all of his freshman year. So not great news there. He underwent surgery Tuesday morning, and they're saying he's going to miss at least 6 weeks of practice. Then after those 6 weeks, a return to play protocol will be made to determine a more precise timeline between 8 to 12 weeks. Mizzou's season starts November 3rd, which is just over 7 weeks. That's around the time that we should get more precise timelines. But if we're going to assume the worst and say maybe 12 weeks, that would be December 2nd, 12 weeks to the day. Mizzou is playing at Notre Dame that day, and then the next game would be in KC against KU on the 7th. So I would expect him to be back for the KU game at the very least. Now, I'm not sure how he was playing in summer workouts, or if he projects to be a real rotation guy. They also landed Luke Northweather in the transfer portal out of OU, who, if we're being honest with ourselves, didn't do too much, but he played a similar role. Most of his shots as a 6'11" big man came from 3. So he's there to space the floor. He's only 6'11" compared to Burns' 7'5", but I think we might see Northweather play the Burns role, or at least the Burns role we see in the future.
Okay.
But really tough news with him. You wanted to see him play after that year. Missouri was being cautious. I think he was cleared to play around February, and they decided to just keep him out for the year. And, now a stress reaction in the foot, not great news, but, I believe in the kid. I'm sure it'll turn out well for him. He's a good talent. I think he was a top 70-ish guy in his class out of high school. So, I believe in him. 7'5", you can probably find your way on a basketball court. So, I believe in that. But next year's going to be a weird year. I think Sebastian Mack, great transfer. I think T.O. Barrett is going to get some more run. I think he was the freshman last year who really got the most opportunity. I don't know. There's a lot that could happen. And I think I said I was going through the potential starting 5, and I left out Sebastian Mack. I expect Sebastian Mack to start. Now I'm going through the roster again. maybe a Mac Robinson backcourt.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you see Jacob Cruz or Trent Pierce. Maybe Mark Mitchell starts at the 5 if you want to run small.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it going in a multitude of ways. And, Gates has a lot of options at his fingertips. And, I think he can make the right decisions. I trust him to do that. But, this will be an interesting season for sure going into the definitely more excited season.
Yeah. Yeah.
2016.
I feel like it'll have a lot to do with just these guys, some of these guys' development. We already know what Anthony Robinson and Mark Mitchell and Jacob Cruz are capable of. But how does Trent Pierce progress? He had some good moments in the beginning of the year. If he can become a more consistent player, that would be really big for them. What does Anar Boateng's progression look like? Like guys like that. And then, there's that guy, Jaden Stone, who is coming in. He averaged like 20 points per game at Detroit Mercy or something 2 years ago. I wonder if he'll, I wonder what kind of role he'll have. But yeah, like, just what sort of development for T.O. Barrett, what does he add to his game? That's just interesting to me, seeing what Gates is going to be able to do with some of these guys. And then, of course, yeah, Trent Burns, such a bummer. I mean, he was like a high 4-star kid. And yeah, I mean, I hope he can get on the court and have a role, because Mizzou fans are excited about that.
Yeah.
Sort of the last thing I have for you, another transfer we haven't mentioned yet. What do you expect from Javon Porter, the third brother of Michael Porter Jr.? And what kind of role do you expect him to have?
Well, I don't know if he'll be a starter for this team. I think he'll definitely be a rotation player. I mean, look, last year, Loyola Marymount, what were his averages? Okay, I don't wait. Warrior.
It was like,
well, either way, Javon Porter, I think he'll be a pretty solid addition. He's got some size, which is much appreciated. 12 and a half. Hey, I'll take it.
12 and a half last year.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he makes an impact. I think he will get some good opportunity for this Tiger team. Yeah, I mean, 12 and a half points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. I like him.
Yeah.
I like him. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's definitely an interesting guy. He's someone who I don't really know how to project as much, especially out of, Loyola Marymount. But, people surprise every day. I mean, Dalton Connect came from Northern Colorado and became one of the best players in the country. So
yeah,
anything's possible. As long as he isn't gambling on games and doing weird podcasts, then he's doing a little better than his brothers, I guess. I mean, maybe that's unfair to say. Big Michael fan, but he's had some weird stuff this offseason.
We've got some comments we can talk about before we leave.
Wonderful.
Lucian Cariff asks, or he says, it reminds me of Trevon Brazile, a former Mizzou Tiger who's now in his 8th season at Arkansas.
Yeah, 8th, and
he's been there for a decade now.
Yeah, he might be 35 by the time he graduates. I can see actually a bit of a Brazil Tony Bryant comparison there.
Okay.
Lengthy, athletic, super athletic guys. You really got to hope that that Bryant is healthier with the injury bug. I mean, poor Brazil. He's had some tough luck with injuries. But I think this is going to be a really fun team. I think it's going to be cool. I think, Sebastian Mack is going to be a big player. I think it's going to be a great developmental year to prepare guys like Boateng, incoming freshman Nicholas Randall, get Trent Pierce going on the right path, and hopefully get Trent Burns on the court.
Mhm.
But if you can have these guys comfortable for next year, and you have like good basketball players to surround the young dynamic duo and Tony Bryant and Jason Crow with,
Mhm.
I think that there's some sunlight in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting.
Yeah, it really
all
is.
right, we've got 2 more questions, one for each of us. We'll do these quickly so we can let you go. You've been very generous with your time, but from
I love
some
it.
fella named Andrew Carson, we've got, for Davis, would you rather see Crystal Palace win the Premier League or Mizzou win a national championship in football? I will say, Andrew, I would rather see Mizzou win a national championship in football. I love Palace, but I'm gonna have to go with Mizzou national championship in football. Very good question, though. I think, very good question. For James, would you rather see Mizzou win March Madness or the Mavs win an NBA championship without Nico Harrison?
Yeah, great addition to that.
Yeah, that's important.
Man, that's a really tough question. I've been in love with the Dallas Mavericks for a long time, and I have a complicated relationship with that team right now for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But if Nico's not a part of that, just for how long I've loved this Maverick team, I think I might have to lean towards a Maverick championship. But boy, would it be electric if Missouri was able to win a national championship in basketball. That would be crazy.
That would be incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good questions, Andrew. So I would rather see Mizzou win a national championship in football than Palace win the Premier League, which would be incredible. And James would rather see the Mavs win without Nico,
barely
over Mizzou win March Madness. Good question. All right, I think that's all we have for you, James. Thank you very much for joining. I'm going to bring you back on when we have any sort of basketball to talk about.
Sweet, I love it. I'm excited.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and spending some time. We've got Mizzou on Saturday. Mizzou plays Louisiana on Saturday. They kick off at noon on ESPN Plus. I don't think I'm going to do an immediate reaction show. I think I'm going to save that for Monday. So come back on Monday, and I'll talk about that game, and then we'll get next week going. But we appreciate everybody for joining. Thank you to Rogue Media. Thank you to Corey Dickman for making this all happen. I appreciate it. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend. M-I-Z.
Sure. M-I-Z, Z-O-U.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.